Live from the Channel 4 studios in Dallas and Fort Worth, this is News 4 Texas Night Beat.
I was thrown on my back, and then debris from the ceiling started raining down on me, and I had to kick my way out.
Thank God I'm alive. That's all I can say.
Just he and I and one lady are the only ones to walk out of our floor area. Get him back!
Good evening. Dozens are dead, hundreds are missing after the worst terrorist attack in U.S. history.
A car bomb exploded in front of a federal building in Oklahoma City, blowing off the entire front of the 9-story building. Here is the latest. 26 deaths are confirmed right now. Many more are expected. Rescuers are literally crawling over the dead to search for survivors. A search is also underway for 2 to 3 suspects who could tonight be in Texas. Despite darkness, high winds and rain tonight, emergency crews continue to scour the destroyed building. Rescuers have spotted many people buried under tons of rubble. Earlier today, an emergency medical crew had to perform an amputation to free a trapped woman. Some veteran police and firefighters left the building in tears because they were unable to reach victims. Help is now arriving from all over the country.
We're continuing to watch that story, but before we continue with our terrorist attack coverage, the latest on severe weather here at home.
Let's begin now with Tim Heller. Tim?
Jonathan Cruz, it's been a busy night. In fact, a busy day in the Weather Center today. Tornado warnings are still out tonight for Kaufman County as well as Rockwell County. Strong thunderstorms in these 2 counties, still exhibiting some kind of rotation out there, which is usually an indication that tornado may or may not be forming, but the rotation is an ominous sign. Same storm system that had been moving across Dallas and Fort Worth, moving into the east about 40 miles per hour. Let's take a look at our Doppler radar tonight, which does show some strong showers and thunderstorms right now from Rockwell County into Kaufman County through southeastern part of Dallas County on down into Ellis County, northern part of Hill County. This is the back edge of the line of showers and thunderstorms. Once this moves through, it will be quiet, but if you're in the direct path of the storm system here, you should be aware that the storms may produce some very heavy rainfall, some frequent lightning. There have been numerous reports of wind gusts in excess of 80 miles per hour, which can do some tremendous amount of damage, and also some large-sized hail. And again, the rotation from time to time in these cells, which would be an indication of possible funnel clouds or tornadoes forming. We're going to continue to monitor the situation and bring you another update in just a few minutes.
All right, Tim, thanks. We'll have more on the weather and damage a bit later.
But first, back to the terrorist attack in Oklahoma City. Lucretia Quinn is live at the scene. Lucretia?
Clarice, this is being called the deadliest terror attack ever on American soil. It has devastated this community and sent a chill through Americans across the country. Each hour, the death toll rises. An update now, 27 confirmed dead, 17 of those children, 20 children from the daycare center still unaccounted for, thousands of injured. Hundreds of people are still missing. Rescue crews brought in lights and massive equipment and cranes to help in the excavation. An hour ago, an excited firefighter came up to us yelling they'd found 2 more alive on the south side of the building. One of those people did not make it. The other, a woman, is still trapped in the basement. We spoke with one of the survivors who got out earlier in the day about his escape. This is what he had to say.
Okay. At first I thought it might have been an earthquake, and then the building wasn't rocking, so I figured, well, you know, it's not an earthquake. But when I did get up, I looked to the north, and there was no wall there anymore. And there was no floor out in front of us either. I was about 8 feet from the part of it that dropped.
Are you still?
I'm madder than hell. We need to tighten up our immigration rules. Well, it's bad that this could happen in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Is beyond my comprehension.
Lawton told us he escaped down a back staircase. He helped a co-worker who was blinded by the blast get out with him. It's been a day of heroes and horrors.
This is total devastation. I've never seen anything in my life with this.
The whole side of the building was totally gone, and there was body parts all over.
Witnesses describe a bright flash, a massive explosion, then a mushroom cloud of smoke and debris. The car bomb detonated 1,200 pounds of explosives, sheared off the face of the Alfred Murrah Federal Building, blasting debris blocks away, shattering windows in a 10-block radius, rocking the entire city.
I've never seen anything like this, and I would never think I'd ever see anything like this in Oklahoma.
The building's still extremely unsteady, and we got a lot of workers in there trying to find victims. So, yeah, it's a little bit scary in there right now.
The Murrah Building housed hundreds of government offices and a daycare center on the second floor. Nearly 600 people were believed in the building when it exploded shortly after 9 this morning. Rescue workers described the carnage, body parts strewn through the wreckage as they hunt for survivors.
And by the time we had gotten there, finally gotten in there and gotten to her, all we saw was maybe half a torso here and half a torso there, and her. And she was just pinned under some things like some of the pipeline.
Right before we left, they were amputating a woman's leg to try and get her out.
Yeah, they were calling for trauma dressings,
yeah,
they were
bandages
to control the bleeding, I guess, after they amputated her leg to get her out.
And they're not taking any of the dead out of the building at this point.
Throughout the day, hospitals have been overwhelmed caring for the wounded.
We had the eye surgeons and eye injuries in one area, the superficial lacerations, and doctors to treat those in another area, and then major injuries in another area.
Hundreds of people are still unaccounted for, and rescuers suspect many bodies remain buried in the rubble.
I was up, I'd say, a helicopter earlier, and you can literally see from top to bottom. You can see through the building. You can see, I mean, that building is destroyed.
The downtown area is sealed off. Hundreds of FBI agents, sheriff's deputies, and emergency teams patrol the area. Bomb squads and bomb-sniffing dogs still search for other devices. An army of medical workers treat the walking wounded, while busloads of chaplains pour in to deal with the mental anguish. With each passing hour, the situation grows more grim as hope fades that any more survivors will be found. Have you heard anyone crying for help?
They did early on. I don't think they've heard anything lately. No. Nothing lately.
Now, the search does continue and will continue all through the night. There are 300 people at least still missing. Brett Johnson is here with us now to tell us more about the rescue efforts.
Well, you know, Lucretia, this is certainly a very emotional task for the Oklahoma City firefighters, and one that they're taking very personally. In fact, they are risking their own lives at this time. Earlier, we had a storm blow in with some very high winds, and we could see debris falling from the building, yet the search continued on. As we've reported, they are working at this time to rescue a woman who has been found alive, trapped in the basements. There are reports that this woman may have been on the 5th floor when the bomb exploded. Oklahoma City firefighters will be on the scene throughout the night and for several days until every last survivor is pulled safely from the rubble.
We're going to continue to focus on areas where we've got voids in the building, where there's a possibility we've got survivors. You know, we believe that we've got some survivors in that building, and that's what's keeping us going at this point. And there's some void areas that we're going to search and concentrate those efforts on areas where hopefully we got somebody there.
Oklahoma City firefighters are strategically placing lights and generators near the areas of the building that are still structurally sound. More than 30% of the building has already been canvassed by firefighting teams using dogs. So far, 58 survivors have been pulled from the rubble, and more people can be heard inside. Emergency crews have been forced to take extreme measures to get some of the people out.
You know, early on we had people trapped in debris. We even had a surgical team have to do an amputation to remove somebody. Don't have a condition on that person right now, but you know, early on we did hear people in areas where we're able to get to the people that we hurt. That's one good success story.
The Red Cross is reporting more than 1,000 people injured. Local hospital emergency rooms are filled to capacity, and the trauma teams are dealing with injuries only seen in a war zone.
The initial injuries were all caused by flying glass and debris. A lot of cuts and lacerations. The subsequent injuries were far more significant than that.
How bad have they gotten?
The injuries, there were 2 people arrived dead.
Now, the official death count comes from the number of bodies that firefighters have in the morgue at this time. And at this time, the official death count is 27. However, firefighters tell us that that number will definitely rise because there are many more bodies still in the rubble. In fact, The Red Cross is reporting up to 80 people dead, but that's an unofficial death count at this point. Clarice?
Brett, this is John Criswell. I believe I heard you say
Sorry,
that
John.
they think as many as 300 may still be missing. How many of those employees and how many of those were perhaps visitors to the federal building who've not yet been identified? Or is there any kind of a division yet?
Well, the way I understand it, John, is that they believe about 700 people work inside the building. So I think it's just a big guesstimate on the numbers of people that could have been inside the building at that time at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's why they put it at 550. Certainly there could have been some visitors in there that they have no idea were there on any official capacity. So at this point, there are 250 people accounted for, so that would put it at about 300 that are missing. As you can see behind me, there is a crane that is still working on the outside facade of the destroyed building. And earlier tonight, there were firefighters in a cage that were being lifted up there, apparently searching for survivors. We understand that they have covered about 30% of the building, and they're taking it from the top down because it's what they've called a pancake. All of the rubble, of course, has fallen to the bottom, so they're taking it from the top down. The number of bodies that could be underneath that rubble is anybody's guess, because if it was a car bomb, like we've been told, that car was sitting right out front of the federal building, and the explosion left a crater 20 feet in diameter in front of the federal building. However, they do not know how deep that crater is because it's filled with rubble. John?
And of course, the daycare center on the second floor was right at ground zero above that bomb. Brett Johnson, Lucretia Quinn in Oklahoma City, thank you very much.
We have animation of how the explosion happened. The car bomb was parked in front of the building when it exploded. The blast blew off the face of the 9-story building and created a crater that may be 8 feet deep. Surrounding buildings were also heavily damaged. The haunting pictures of little children covered with blood, has many of us heartbroken and angry. Nightbeat's Claudia Cottle reports on some ways to deal with this horrible tragedy.
They are having a very difficult time. They are bringing out bodies of many people, and it's awful hard on the officers and everybody that's had to bring the bodies out.
Does it make you feel vulnerable? Felt that way for quite a while. Haven't you?
Minutes after saying goodbye to their parents, 17 children in the daycare center were dead. The smallest survivors will live with some of the most horrific images of death. Images that will also haunt the rescue workers, the federal employees, and the passers-by who race to help the victims.
There's a tremendous variability in terms of how kids and adults respond to events like this, and we really don't know exactly how to predict which child is going to be the most vulnerable.
In many cases, just seeing these frightening pictures is enough to profoundly disturb adults and children. In crises, doctors have noted cases of acute stress, nightmares, and visions that prevent a person from coping with the present.
During waking time, the person may feel that they can't stop thinking about it, that the memories are just there all the time and interfere actually with their ability to respond to what's actually going on at the present time.
If a child seems particularly upset, Dr. Waller urges parents to discuss what has happened and assure the child that he or she is safe. Claudia Cottle, News 4 Texas Nightbeat.
President Clinton quickly reacted to today's tragedy, sending federal assistance and investigators to Oklahoma City. Nightbeat's Julia Summers joins us live from our Dallas newsroom now with details. Julia?
John, the president tonight is outraged by what's happened in Oklahoma City. He showed his anger and sent experts packing, a flood of rescue workers and investigators. And those who are responsible, he promises, will face the death penalty.
The bombing in Oklahoma City was an attack on innocent children and defenseless citizens. It was an act of cowardice, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate it.
President Clinton, late Wednesday afternoon at the White House, sharing his disgust and dismay over the tragedy in Oklahoma City.
These people are killers, and they must be treated like killers.
The president was in the middle of a photo session with the Prime Minister of Turkey when he was told about the explosion. He ordered White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta to oversee the federal response. Response that includes 4 teams from the FBI, experts in explosives from the ATF, military helicopters from Fort Sill, Oklahoma, a rescue squad from the Air Force, robots, dogs, and more.
We cannot tell how long it will be before we can say with certainty what occurred and who is responsible. But we will find the perpetrators and we will bring them to justice.
There were reports of threats at federal buildings all across the country, and security was immediately tightened. But Reno says those were cruel copycats and no bombs were found elsewhere. John?
All right, Julia, thank you very much.
Since early this afternoon, we've been telling you about a possible link between the bombing in Oklahoma City and a vehicle rented in Dallas-Fort Worth. The FBI alerted police here about a Chevrolet Suburban rented at DFW Airport but seen near the bomb site. Nightbeat's Richard Ray has more.
Somebody got the license plate in Oklahoma City. Police traced it back to DFW Airport. Texas license, PTF54F. 1995 brown Suburban with tinted windows and a bug shield. Inside, witnesses described Middle Eastern-looking men with beards wearing blue jogging suits. This may surprise you, but the southwestern United States have become increasingly a hotbed for fundamentalist Islamic groups. This 1992 convention in Oklahoma City was put on by the Islamic Association for Palestine. The overwhelming majority of Muslims in this country and at this convention are not radicals. But CBS reports that members of groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad, who consider America evil, were here too.
Oklahoma City, I can tell you, is probably considered one of the largest centers of Islamic radical activity outside the Middle East.
Steve Emerson chronicled the rise of radical Islam and its recruiting campaign in the Southwest for PBS. He sees all the makings of a Mideast-type bombing in Wednesday morning's explosion.
This was done with the attempt to inflict as many casualties as possible. That is a Middle Eastern trait and something that has been generally not carried out in this soil until we were rudely awakened to it in 1993.
Bomb experts say it will take 2 days at least to make an initial evaluation of the blast site.
The FBI and the ATF have an expertise, an ability to take apart a bomb, look at the bomb fragments, and tell who made the bomb.
We will find the perpetrators and we will bring them to justice. The death penalty is available and we will seek it.
Richard Ray, News 4 Texas, Nightbeat.
No one has claimed responsibility, no group has been identified as prime suspects, and there is no word tonight on that Chevrolet Suburban rented at DFW and seen in Oklahoma City.
The Oklahoma City blast is big news in the Middle East, an area all too familiar with terrorism. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin says his country deeply shares the sorrow and pain of the United States. UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali issued a statement calling the bombing a cowardly attack, and the British Broadcasting Corporation compared it to the terrorism that has rocked Northern Ireland.
Coming up, we'll have more on the terrorist attack in Oklahoma City,
including reaction from Governor Bush and the effects of terrorism at home. Stay with us.
This morning's bomb blast put federal offices across the nation on alert. Federal buildings in Boston, Nebraska, Oregon, and Delaware were evacuated. Downtown Dallas, the A. Maceo Smith Federal Building was evacuated just before noon. Bomb experts and federal agents also thoroughly searched the Earl Cabell Building. Nervous employees expressed their fear that a bombing could happen here.
I'm real scared right now. We don't know, if it's going to happen to us next or whatever.
Anything can happen down here, and I'm concerned for the safety of the people that enter this building.
In Fort Worth, the Latham Federal Center was shut down and employees were sent home while a search was made for explosives. Fort Worth City Hall across the street was closed as a precautionary measure. The Naval Air Station in Fort Worth was also evacuated after a telephone bomb threat.
Texas Governor George W. Bush has offered help to our neighboring state, Oklahoma. He was also quick to reassure Texans about their personal safety.
Everybody's on full alert. We've got a great intelligence network. Texas is aware and prepared. People should not be alarmed. I'm convinced that we'll find the terrorists and bring him or her to justice.
The Department of Public Safety tightened security around the state capitol after the Oklahoma bomb blast.
For years, we've all heard of terrorist bombings overseas, but now the deadly threat hits home. It has people in the heartland of America downright scared. Night Beat's Mark Alfred has more on this new and frightening era in U.S. history.
We are talking here about the kinds of things that we've witnessed overseas, huge quantities of explosives.
Terrorism expert Dr. Tony Cooper expresses the fears so many of us here in North Texas are feeling tonight. The thought that the horrible practice of terrorism has hit home. It was 12 years ago Islamic terrorists bombed the American embassy in Beirut, killing hundreds of U.S. Marines. But that was over there. Satellites linked us to the agonizing pictures, but we thought it wouldn't. We thought it couldn't happen here. Then in 1993, it did. Islamic terrorists struck the World Trade Center, the symbol of U.S. capitalism. And today, still undetermined terrorists strike the relatively unguarded heartland of America. And we are now left with the agonizing questions of why, and how do we prevent it from happening again?
What are you going to do as a practical matter to ascertain whether or not they are loaded with explosives? Throw up roadblocks, stop every car, stop transit throughout the center of Dallas?
Well, you can't lock our society down. You can't prevent every opportunity of an individual who wants to assassinate someone or who wants to place a bomb, but you need to take prudent precautions.
No doubt those precautions will now be taken, but how long will they last? Dr. Cooper predicts not long. Our confidence will return, and with it, complacency. Mark Alford, News 4 Texas, Night Beat.
For the second straight night, severe weather has pounded Dallas-Fort Worth and surrounding areas.
Richard Ray's been monitoring the situation, and Rich, what's the latest now?
Let's bring you up to date. A severe thunderstorm system, as you know, including a tornado, has been tracking across Tarrant and Dallas counties tonight. Seems to follow Interstate 30 for the most part, knocking down some power lines and causing some structural damage. Most of the problems were spotted in the Cockrell Hill area, that is southwest of downtown Dallas. There were no immediate reports, this is the good news, of any injuries right now. The majority of the damage that we know about is in an area near the Bronco Bowl, that's in Oak Cliff, and we're going to go now to Night Beat's Claudia Cottle. This is videotape that's coming in raw from Bud Gillette has sent this in from Oak Cliff, I am now told. We've tracked this system from Palo Pinto County into Parker County and then into Tarrant County and Dallas counties tonight, where it swept south of downtown Dallas, following I-20 and into Kaufman County. And again, this is videotape that one of our photographers and reporter Bud Gillette picked up in Oak Cliff. Now we're going to try to go to Night Beat's Claudia Cottle. She's near the Bronco Bowl. Claudia, I'm told that's pretty much the center of the damage tonight.
There seems to be quite a bit of damage here. Residents here at the Bahama Glen apartment complex in Oak Cliff report experiencing not one but two tornadoes touch down here in the past hour. And if you'll take a look behind me here, certainly the debris and the destruction at this complex confirms that. You're looking now at bricks which have literally been pulled up and out of this one particular building. Fortunately, no injuries here. The one gentleman reports hearing the blast of the window being pulled up off of the hinges. At this point, we have only one confirmed report of injuries, not serious. We are happy to say. In one case of one of the buildings, the roof was actually pulled up and off of the complex. Residents heard the noises and they responded immediately.
Yeah, storm spotters, Claudia, have reported touchdowns in.
Okay, again, we have only one confirmed report of injuries, not serious injuries. Firefighters tell me some minor cuts and bruises, but a tremendous amount of destruction here. Just to give you a sense of the churning power of the tornado, many of the cars that were parked right here, parked straight into their spots, were actually slid sideways, and we were watching residents pry them apart because they were actually bumper to bumper, many of them hubcap to hubcap. Residents quickly got out of their homes when they heard what was happening.
And before I knew it, the lights started flashing, and I just knew it was time just to get in some cover, and that quickly, everything just happened.
Bahama Glen apartment complex in Oak Cliff, just a little bit south of the Bronco Bowl. Quite a bit of superficial damage, not as much serious damage. A lot of the bricks pulled off of buildings. In one instance, one of the buildings, the entire roof pulled up off the top of the building. A lot of people now saying that they have suffered some serious water damage. They're waiting for the Red Cross to come in, but fortunately, no serious injuries. At this point, we only know of one person who was taken to a nearby hospital just to be checked out. Rich, back to you.
What a day it has been. Thank you, Claudia Cottle, reporting live from Oak Cliff near the Bronco Bowl. Fort Worth Avenue near Westmoreland, we're told, is pretty much the center of the damage there. Our storm spotters have been calling in all night. We've listened to them on the radio, reporting touchdowns in Fort Worth near I-30 and East Loop 820. That occurred about 8:37 tonight. In Dallas, south of I-30 near Loop 12 at about 9:10. Other funnels were reported near Dallas Love Field and White Rock Lake. Now, the storm system has pretty much tracked through this area. We're going to run some more videotape. And again, this is from the Oak Cliff area, where we think most of the damage has occurred. We've had a number of reporters and photographer teams out tonight tracking these storms, and the good news is that remarkably little major damage is in the wake of them. Again, this appears to be the worst hit area, and no injuries. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's a very powerful storm system that has moved to the east and is causing havoc to the east of us. We're going to go back to John and Clarice, and we'll keep you posted, Clarice and John, as events warrant.
Okay, Rich, thank you. We do not have an all clear yet from Tim Heller, but hopefully we're going to be close. As we've just shown you, severe weather has pounded our area tonight. Up next, we're going to take an additional check on area damage and the area storm.
Plus, more on the devastating terrorist attack in Oklahoma City. Stay with us.
As we've been showing you tonight, severe weather pounded much of North Texas. Right now, let's go live to Night Beat's Jeff Crilly in East Fort Worth. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Clarice. Well, certainly compared to Oak Cliff, Fort Worth has dodged a bullet tonight, although I have to admit I was a little nervous. We'll go ahead and show you some videotape. It was shortly before 9 o'clock. We were headed east on I-30 towards downtown Fort Worth, which was the center of the storm at that point, and we were listening to ham radio operators describe the storm, and we decided to take cover underneath an overpass when we heard this.
It's now just to my northeast. I've got debris. I've got transformers continuing. I got multiple debris on Interstate 30, 3 miles east of the downtown on Highway 30. I'm moving east. Tornadoes now on the ground just north of 30.
And we could find no debris on the interstate as he was describing. We're told that there was some minor damage over in TCU to some cars. But let's go live now to Bud Gillette. Bud, what do you have?
Well, Jeff, it had moved apparently from your place through this part of Oak Cliff in Dallas County. We're at the Oakwood Apartments. You can see the kind of damage here as we look. Probably straight line winds, but people swear it was a tornado. We'll have to wait till the weather people sort it out. But you can get an idea of the damage. Broken glass here, cars. You can see some of this ductwork has been kicked out and dumped here. All in all, it's a scary night. It wasn't as scary now, certainly, as it was 90 minutes ago. Now, we have some videotape, some very graphic videotape I'd like to show you. This was a scene about 90 minutes ago when weather spotters reported funnel clouds in several parts of Oak Cliff and in the Cockrell Hill area. The green flashes you're about to see are transformers that are actually blowing up because of a surge in overload and plunging the areas into darkness. We drove through the heart of Oak Cliff and found block after block after block plunged into darkness. At this time, we cannot say exactly how many homes and businesses and stoplights were without power, but TU Electric is working on it. Tree limbs are also aggravating the problem in the part of Oak Cliff, knocking down power lines, but also creating traffic hazards. We came upon an accident on Hampton Street that was caused when a motorist slowed down because of the tree in the road and the driving rain. The person behind him apparently didn't see what was going on, and they rear-ended him and blocked traffic until fire units arrived in order to move the branches away, make sure everybody was okay. And now, of course, we've had all this problem here on the Bahama area of Oak Cliff, just south of Fort Worth Avenue. Clarice, it's a wild and woolly night. We'll be staying with it, and we'll certainly let you know if there are any updates.
Okay, Bud Gillette and Jeff Crilly, thank you both for those reports. Do not power down. Please stay in position. We'll check back with you later in this newscast. Thanks.
Tim Heller, I think it's probably very safe to say that the advance warning that you and the other meteorologists in the area have been giving people may have saved people from injuries, perhaps even death tonight, because we were on top of it in advance and you could plot it neighborhood by neighborhood practically as it moved through the area.
This was actually a real easy storm to track because it developed out in Palo Pinto County, tracked due east, and we were able to say if you live in such and such a county, it's here, but it's moving towards you.
And take cover.
So in most cases, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. minutes that something out there was moving your way. And 23,000 people now without power in parts of the Metroplex. So there's a lot of folks that are not watching us tonight, but and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of folks when sunup comes tomorrow are going to see a lot of damage around their neighborhoods. Our photographers who are out in the storms tonight, take a look at some of the dramatic video of some of the lightning associated with the storm systems rumbling through. Winds were howling up to 80 miles per hour. Baseball-size hail reported with some of the storms as they moved across the Metroplex. And in fact, at this hour, we still continue to see quite a lot of action out there tonight. Let me show you what's happening on the radar screens as we speak. Here's a time-lapse over the past 12 hours, which shows you both of the complexes that were moving across the area. First of all, a warm front came up from the south earlier this afternoon. That triggered off the scattered showers, which turned into thunderstorms, which turned into a few isolated tornadoes. That moved out to the north, and then the next weather system came in from the west. This is the cold front, and you can see the line of activity stretching north to south across the area, now moving out to the east. In fact, our Doppler radar can show you the best vantage point as far as what's happening right now. All clear for Tarrant County and Dallas County, as well as Johnson County down to the south, Denton County, Collin County, but there's still some pretty good thunderstorms happening right now just to the east of Navarro County, back up towards Henderson County, Kaufman County. In fact, the white here on the Doppler radar indicates turbulence. We're still getting some rotation out of these cells and could still see some tornadic development even at this hour. And again, this is just a central part of the line that's moving out to the east. It stretches to the south, north to the Oklahoma border, and across the border into the southeastern corner of Oklahoma as well. Meantime, we still have some watches that are out there at this point, and it looks like the watches should start to diminish here as far as the coverage in the next couple of hours as that line sweeps out to the east. Kaufman County still under a tornado warning officially at this hour, with the prospects of that storm system still producing some rotation. Rockwell County now taken out of that, the storm system now out to the east, but we can expect perhaps some of these counties to also report in some severe weather, some damaging winds, some large-size hail, and the possibility every time you get a severe thunderstorm of a tornado developing with little nor warning. That possibility is still out there, which is why we're still under a tornado watch. But with the storms moving out to the east, we're going to start to pull some of these counties from the watch over the next hour here. All right, let's take a look at what's happening out there right now, bringing up to date on the current conditions. It's 65 degrees in Dallas. Humidity is still pretty high. Winds are out of the south yet at 15, but they should be swinging around to the west, northwest here later on tonight as the storm pulls away from us. In Fort Worth right now, the current temperature there also a little bit cooler because of the rain, 62 degrees right now. Humidity still pretty running high. A lot of moisture from that rain still in the atmosphere. Winds out of southwest at 9 miles per hour right now in Fort Worth. DFW with the first batch of showers and thunderstorms measured about an inch of rain. I think we're going to be doing our own evaluating the storm system overnight and during the day tomorrow as well. And I have a feeling we're going to up this total here because this is the first rainfall. And of course, we had the second batch move through, which also produced some brief heavy downpours. Temperatures were 56 and 66 officially at DFW for the low and the high today. All right, the rest of the weather map looks like this tonight. I want to show you the storm system as it develops from a clear sky 24 hours ago into a batch of showers and thunderstorms that pulled in from the south with the warm front. And then the second line that developed with the cold front. It's not very big, the showers associated with the cold front, and the nice thing is now that it's moving out to the east, we're seeing quiet weather on the backside. That means tomorrow we won't have any of this mess in here. But I do want to let you know that on Friday we have yet another possibility of storms as another area of low pressure digs across the area, swings in, and could bring us another batch of strong thunderstorms perhaps late Friday into early Saturday. So with that said, here's your forecast for tonight. Tornado watch still in effect for a large part of the viewing area. Severe thunderstorm warning still a possibility, and again some isolated tornadoes still possible. Looks like tomorrow a high of 78, tonight the low 55. Showers possible again Friday into Saturday, and then it gets quieter and cooler and calmer for Sunday and Monday.
But this is not quite the all clear.
No, not just yet. I think for Dallas and Fort Worth, those two communities, those two cities, now in the clear because they're on the backside of the storm. But just east of us, that line of thunderstorms still rumbling through, and we'll still be tracking it here the next few hours.
All right, Tim, thanks very much. In the latest from the O.J. Simpson trial, Judge Lance Ito, along with two attorneys from each side, met with jurors today separately. The discussion focusing on possible racial and personality tensions among jurors based on remarks from released juror Jeanette Harris. Judge Ito also asked jurors how they're being treated by deputies. O.J. Simpson was not allowed to attend the meetings. There will be more testimony in the trial tomorrow.
Stay with us for the latest from Oklahoma City, a recap on our local storm damage. Sports is just ahead, and fans, David Letterman is not far behind. Because of the crush of today's news, we will be joining David Letterman in progress. Right now it's time for sports, and the Stars want to make sure they get a better playoff position. Right,
Crazy
Mike?
game tonight. Crazy game at Reunion. If the playoffs started tomorrow, the Stars would have the 7th spot in the West. The team chasing Dallas in the standings went after the Stars tonight at Reunion. The Sharks and the Stars, 3-2 in the second. Look at Todd Harvey spin and score here for Dallas. It's 3-3. The Stars would tie it and then go ahead in the third. Craig Ludwig with the goal. 4-3 Dallas. The Sharks come back to tie, and it's Mr. Harvey again, putting Dallas up 5-4. But with 50 seconds remaining in regulation, former star Ulf Dahlen beats Mike Torquia 5-5, the final in overtime. The Denver Nuggets tonight with a chance to close the door on the Dallas Mavericks playoff hopes. A Denver win against Minnesota would knock Dallas out of the playoff chase. Well, the stress was just a little bit too much for some of the Denver fans tonight, and they didn't have too much to worry about, though. Rodney Rogers helping to lead the way as Denver gets the big win over Minnesota, 106-81. The Mavs' playoff hopes die, but what a tremendous year they've had. Dallas finishes the home season tomorrow with the Spurs. Utah beat Houston 115-96. Washington in overtime gets by Orlando. Cleveland defeating Miami tonight. Atlanta over New Jersey. Boston up by 2 in the race for that final playoff spot, but a loser to Milwaukee tonight, and Indiana beat Philadelphia. The Dallas Cowboys have 8 picks in this weekend's NFL draft, including the 28th pick in round 1. Jerry and Barry today talked draft with the media. No specifics, but plenty of hypotheticals.
There's a certain scenario that I would make a trade before draft day. We haven't seen that as of Wednesday. We haven't seen that at all, but there is a scenario that that is there.
I think we're all concerned about the character issues. If you got 2 talents basically close, obviously that's going to be a weighted factor in your decision. But as Larry stated, if Charles Manson could run 4.3, there'd be somebody probably draft him. And
but not the Cowboys.
Not the Cowboys.
All righty then, exhibition baseball today in Port Charlotte. Rangers in Boston. Will Clark with a 2-run homer to center in the first. Clark knocks in all 4 Texas runs. The Rangers beat the Red Sox. The final from Port Charlotte today, 4-1. And that'll do it for sports.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Mike. Latest word now from the explosion scene in Oklahoma City indicates that 2 of 3 victims pulled alive from the rubble have since died.
A third person who was rescued is being treated for injuries suffered in this morning's bombing at the Federal Building. Right now, let's rejoin our crew live in Oklahoma City, Lucretia Quinn. Lucretia, what do you have for us?
Well, Clarice, we have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that the death toll has risen to 29 officially. The good news is they did find 3 people alive. 2 they have gotten out of the rubble already. The third is a woman who was on the 4th floor, and when the explosion occurred, she dropped down into the basement, and they are trying to extract her from all of the rubble and debris down there right now. So that rescue effort is continuing as we speak. They've brought in searchlights and huge cranes that you should be able to see on the building back there. They are going floor by floor, listening for any sounds, calling out, trying to find out if there are any survivors up there. Obviously, this is going to be a huge, huge task. It's going to take many days to get through all of this area. Brett Johnson was just speaking with some of the rescue workers and has new information. Brett?
That's right, Lucretia. We were talking with a doctor who actually performed the amputation on the woman that we told you about earlier that they rescued. And the doctor, Gary Masad, tells us that they simply had no choice. They had to amputate the woman's right leg just below the knee in order to get her out of the situation she was in. Her leg was trapped, but apparently she had lost so much blood that there was no way that she would have survived had she had to wait until rescuers could get to her and safely remove the rubble around her. The doctor says the entire time they were in there, which was about a 3-hour period, that the building would start shaking and things would start falling down on top of them, and they would have to rush out and absolutely leave her there. But she was in such bad shape, the doctor says, that they could not find a vein in order to give her any type of IV or any type of pain medicine during the amputation. But he says they simply had no choice. And I'd like to point I would like to point one thing out, John and Clarice, that we're in this very fragile time news-wise where we keep getting this updated information, and we can only hope that the numbers that we're giving to you are factual at this point.
Of course, we understand, and our hearts, Brett, go out to the woman who had her leg amputated. Also, our hearts go out to everybody there in Oklahoma City dealing with that tragedy.
The families that are waiting and not knowing what's happened to loved ones.
They certainly are.
Well, we'll have more, of course, on Sunrise tomorrow morning. You've done a great job, Brett. Pass it along to our entire crew. Thank you very much. Okay.
And here at home, severe weather topped our news tonight. Let's rejoin Claudia Cotto live. Claudia, what's the latest at your location?
Well, we are live at the Bahama Glen apartment complex here in Oak Cliff. Residents report experiencing 2 tornadoes touch down just in the past hour and a half. You can see a lot of damage to cars. And right here behind me, this is the building here in this complex of some 1,500 residents, which actually lost its entire roof. Families tell me they heard the boom, the explosion of the destruction, and raced entire families to get into bathtubs to protect themselves. At this point, we can report, fortunately, only one person taken to an area hospital to be treated for minor cuts and bruises. Firefighters are still on the scene trying to help residents, many of whom find that their apartments now are so waterlogged that they don't have anything dry to wear, nothing dry to sleep in. So a lot of residents out here now waiting for firefighters to finish mopping up. The water and the gas obviously being turned off so firefighters can continue to do the work without any danger to residents. But at this point, the good news, only one person taken to an area hospital. The destruction here, though, is substantial, and there's going to be a tremendous cleanup we can expect over the next few days. Back to you.
Yeah, rough night here at home. Thanks, Claudia. And some 23,000 Metroplex homes without electric power right now.
And Tim Heller, as you said, a lot of people are going to discover tomorrow when the sun comes up that there is a great deal more damage than anyone realizes tonight.
That's the thing. At this hour of the night, it's so dark out there that it's hard to see all of the damage that's created out there. And there were numerous touchdowns of these weak funnel clouds and tornadoes that occurred tonight. Some brief heavy rainfall. In fact, a video from Fort Worth shows you some of the showers that were coming down earlier tonight. And in some cases, the rain was coming down so heavy it was setting off car alarms. Of course, flash flooding, some immediate flash flooding. Some of the streets and ditches was a problem. Rain almost falling horizontally because of the strong winds, which at times were gusting near 80 miles per hour. Now, for Dallas and Fort Worth, we're on the backside of the storm. You saw from Claudia's live shot that the rain is not falling in her location. Check your Doppler radar right now, and you'll find that things are dry in Dallas and in Tarrant counties, but there's still some pretty active cells from Lamar County through Delta County, and also another little cluster which had been showing some rotation in southern Hunt County, Rains County, Van Zant, northwestern part of Henderson County, central Navarro County, and down through Limestone County. That's all moving out to the east at 20 to 30 miles per hour, excuse me, 30 to 40 miles per hour. Still could exhibit some rotation in there from time to time. Still may see some weak funnel clouds. We still have a tornado watch in effect for that area that's still seeing the active weather tonight, and we'll still be here tracking the storm systems for you.
Okay, Tim, thanks very much.
We leave you tonight with video of the bombing in Oklahoma City, a bombing that affects all of us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
A major tragedy here in downtown Oklahoma City.
It was a big force.
You can see it is gone.
It is just pandemonium here.
They've got a hot device. Get them back!
Tremendous blast came through the windows, blew us out of our chairs onto the floor.
Children at this hour are being pulled out of the Alfred Murrah Building.
Seemed like the whole world ended.
Back up!
They found another bomb.
Did you see another bomb?
People are running like crazy away from the area because there is a concern for a second explosion.
And the building shook and the ceiling fell in and the walls fell in and there was nothing left.
Stretcher, she's got a seizure.
Oklahoma Memorial Hospital is on code black, which means they can handle no more patients. They're being taken to St. Anthony Hospital right now.
This is total devastation.
Get them back!
For all practical purposes, it's a ghost town down there now. Nobody is anywhere close to that building unless they're bomb techs. This is a rescue from the Alfred P. Murrah Building. You can see a firefighter helping a man down a ladder.
Thank God I'm alive. That's all I can say. My entire staff of about 7 people was gone.
And as you can see by the pictures, it doesn't matter what floor you were on. The building was literally almost blown to bits.
Some of them are crying and screaming, and we've been in there and done our best to reassure them. We've been able to get down through cracks and hold their hands. We'll be here for days doing this. You know, this rescue effort is probably going to take about 3 or 4 days.